Hello, everyone. So we are here back on a ZeroPoint school. What is this called? Teacher training. And today Rochelle is presenting to me. So I'm the learner here, and she's presenting to me Sara Book One. It is a beautiful kids, children, teenage group law of attraction book. So I'm looking forward. Let's get started, Rochelle.
Wonderful. All right. So this is part three. So Sarah is a little girl who is struggling with life, and she meets an owl called Solomon, who is essentially the voice of Abraham who talks to her, for those of you who have done the law of attraction. All right. So Sarah's life gets easier, and she even starts to enjoy school more than before. The best part of her day is the time that she spends with Solomon. Solomon says they're birds of a feather, and birds of a feather flock together. Things which are like one another come together. So we've seen this quite often in our own lives, things that gather together. Likeness is not always something that you can see, however, it is something that you feel too. Everyone and everything in the entire universe is affected by this law, the law of attraction. That which is like unto itself is drawn. So if you just think about a bunch of flamingos, which are all together, they're all in a flock, birds in a flock, those big schools of fish, things which are like unto themselves are drawn. Pay attention to the way that you feel as you observe these things and people and animals and situations around you. And this is really important, is focusing on the feelings. As Sarah leaves Solomon, she sees a flock of geese flying up. Could it possibly be coincidence? Well, maybe. So, chapter 16, and I have to say here that some of these chapters are, there's just background in them. So, I try to pull out the lessons and the challenges, but sometimes a chapter is just a story. All right. Sarah sees Mr. and Mrs. Pike, her elderly neighbors. So they are both neat as a pin, and Sarah thinks like attracts like. Um, they're very like each other, birds of a feather. Jason, her little brother, and his friend Billy buzz past Sarah on their bicycles. They were made for each other, she thinks, because they are both monstrous boys doing boy stuff and always teasing her. Birds of a feather, she thinks. Then Sarah goes into Hoyt's store where there are three joking, happy men that work there, and they're always teasing and joking the customers, but they've never really interacted with Sarah. Today, one teased her, asking her whether she was going to. She bought a candy bar and she bought an eraser for school. And he asked her which one she was going to eat first. And she said, well, she thinks she'll eat the candy bar and keep the eraser for later. So she responded with this quick, witty joke, which was unusual for her. And immediately she thought, birds of a feather. The law of attraction really is everywhere. So if you can just focus on it, you see it all over the place. So, what does the saying birds of a feather mean?
I feel in this kind of context, we are really talking about the law of attraction and how it's similar things are pulling each other together, like how you were kind of telling about the flock of fishes, or you know, just similar things are getting attracted to each other, I feel, and that kind of becomes a group. Is there a different way you would put it?
No, that's beautiful. I love the thing of similarity. That is perfect. And then, do you remember how to define the law of attraction?
Yes, that which is like attracts unto itself.
There we go. Perfect. All right. So, Sarah, you'll see as you go through the book, she does really, really well. And then all of a sudden the wheels fall off. So, this is her worst possible day at school in chapter 17. Sarah has the worst day and she tells Solomon how awful it is for her. It's like a cage that she can't escape from. So I'm quoting Solomon here where he says, if you leave your school because there are some negative things there, then I think you should get out of town too, and out of the state, and out of the country, and off the face of the earth, even out of this universe. And now, Sarah, I don't know where to send you, Solomon replies. In every particle of the universe, there is that which is wanted and the lack thereof. So if you're leaving one place or circumstance because there is negative in it, the next place you go to will be the same. Your work is not to find the perfect place, but rather to find the things you want in every place. As you begin to notice more things that you want to see, more of those things begin to become part of your experience. So it really is lovely.
Yes, beautifully put together. I feel kids will love it to look at it from that point of view, you know. Oh,
I think so.
if I don't love the school, I can go to the other school, but what if the same thing happens in that school too? Okay, what is it that I need to
Exactly.
change here? Yeah.
Yes, it's not what is outside of us, it was what is inside of us.
Yes.
So Sarah asks, she really thinks the law of attraction is broken. She gets mad when Jason and Billy splash her with muddy water. She tells Solomon that something is wrong with the law of attraction because her mean and nasty brother always flocks to her, and she's not mean and nasty. Everyone and everything in the universe has in them that which is wanted and the lack of it, all mixed in together. You have the option of looking at someone or something that you want or the lack of it. When you give something your attention, so she's giving Billy her attention, you attract more of the same, whether you want it or whether you don't want it. So, in her seeing his bratty little brother pranks, she's attracting more of those bratty little brother pranks. You can always tell by what you're feeling what you're in harmony with. So if it feels bad, you're in harmony with the bad side of it. And if you feel good, you're in harmony with the good side, what you want, as opposed to what you do not want. Your feelings are your guidance system. You must remember that when your happiness depends on somebody else, on what somebody else does or does not do, you are trapped because you cannot control what they think or what they do. Your joy only depends on what you choose to give your attention to. So, this is
Yes.
so lovely.
Yeah, this is again a huge lesson by itself because when we are learning this for the first time, we might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a good person. Why am I attracting this bad person into my life?" But this
Yes.
kind of gives us a better understanding. The more I pay attention to it, the more I'm attracting that into my life.
Yes, I'm finding it really difficult to put a storybook into a PowerPoint because there's so much in it. But the lessons, and it's because of all the lessons and the examples, which are so beautiful to help us to understand the law of attraction. Taking things with you. When you see things you don't like and you think about them and you talk about them, you become like them. And then everywhere you go, they are too. You have learned to respond to conditions. If good conditions are around you, you respond by feeling good. But if there are bad conditions around you, you respond by feeling bad. You cannot control conditions. You aren't here to find perfect conditions. You are here to choose things to appreciate, which causes you to vibrate like the perfect conditions. And so you attract more perfect conditions. It's all about the appreciation. You have to be able to find something you can appreciate. Choose what you like. When you can find something to like in any situation, you turn the situation into something that you like. As soon as we can just swing that, then we can swing it all. What does your happiness depend on?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. What does my happiness depend on? I think it depends on myself. What I choose to see in the world, what I choose to pay my
There we go.
attention in the world.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well done. You seriously have done some work, Vishnu. All right. How can you turn a situation into something that you like?
Maybe by paying more attention to what in it is it that I really like and kind of attracting and keeping my focus on that thing that which I like rather than focusing on what I don't want, what I don't like.
Fantastic. So, always finding something to appreciate. So,
Yeah.
even in a bad situation, I was talking to someone the other day who has two beautiful little boys, but she had a really bad experience before that with her husband. And to get her to focus instead of all the badness that happened, but on to say, look what came out of the badness is these two beautiful children. So being able to appreciate no matter how bad something is, there is always a gift hidden within it. Having your valve wide open in every moment, a stream of pure positive energy is flowing to you. Think of the water pressure in your house. The water pressure is always there, right up against the tap or the valve. When you want water in your house, you open the valve, excuse me, and you let the water flow in. But when the valve is closed, shut, the water doesn't flow. It's your work to keep this valve to well being open. It's always there for you, but you must let it in. Make a decision that no condition, no matter how bad it may seem to you in the moment, is worth closing your valve. Decide that keeping your valve open is the most important thing. You've got to say to yourself, I'm going to keep my valve open anyway.
Another beautiful example, and again, from a child's point of view, I feel, oh, that's nice.
Yes,
I have to keep my valve open and not just keeping it
there
closed.
we go. So Sarah learns this, and then she gets home to find her mother home from work, which is very unusual. She's lying down with a headache, and Sarah feels very unsettled by her mum feeling ill. She follows Solomon's advice to open her valve by thinking thoughts that feel better until you feel your valve open again. When you feel bad, your valve is closed. She did her chores in record time, plus a little bit extra, and she was feeling really good. Her decision not to vacuum so as not to disturb her mother brought the bad feelings back. That's amazing. I can actually see the way I feel has to do with what I'm giving my attention to. The conditions didn't change, my attention did. So everything was exactly the same. When she was doing her thing, her valve was open, she felt good. The minute she thought of her mother again, she closed her valve, she felt bad. Sarah realized that her mum was not appreciating her action later that day when she was so pleased with Sarah's chores that had been done. She was appreciating Sarah's open valve. If Sarah had closed her valve, she wouldn't have done her chores and she would have sat in a little bundle of misery. All right, so feeling good, Sarah notices that her teacher seems happier. Now that she's learning to open her valve, she starts noticing the people around her. Solomon explains that anytime you hold someone or something as your object of attention, at the same time you're feeling that wonderful feeling of appreciation, you add to their state of well being. You shower them with your appreciation. To shower people, you have to connect your hose to the faucet of appreciation. Think about something and then pay attention to how you feel. You will notice that when you're appreciating or basking or applauding or seeing positive aspects, you feel wonderful, and that means you're hooked to the faucet. But when you're blaming, criticizing, or finding fault, you won't feel good. And that means you're unhooked, at least for the time that you're feeling bad. Sarah sees on her way home old Aunt Zoe, and she feels bad for her because she's really battling to walk up the stairs with her old body. Sarah tries to spray her with appreciation, but it won't work. Solomon is nowhere to be found when she asks him why. But the next day, Solomon explains why Sarah couldn't help Aunt Zoe. You cannot be part of the chain of pain and hooked up to the faucet of well being at the same time. It's one or the other. When you're observing an unwanted condition, that causes you to feel bad. That bad feeling is how you know you're unhooked. When you're not connected, the natural flow of well being, you have not. When you are not connected to the natural flow of well being, you have nothing to give another. You have to be more aware of your connection to the faucet of well-being than you are aware of the conditions. So always focus on how do I feel. You can look at the same subject and find many different conditions to focus upon. She could look at Aunt Zoe and go, oh, she's got an old body and she's in pain and she can't move, and I can see all of that painfully. Or I can say, she's lived an amazing life. She's still independent. She's still trying to move. She's still being able to move around by herself. It feels different. You can tell by the way you feel whether you're choosing a condition that is helpful or one that is not. So, very often when we have someone around us who's ill, we focus in on that. All right. And once again, just as Sarah is beginning to come up with wonderful feelings, Sarah notices that her brother and his friend no longer bother her as much as before. They go rushing past her and they don't tease her. And then all of a sudden, she finds a great big snake in her path and she gets a great big fright. She laughs about it as she tells Solomon because at this point, she's opened her valve. It's not your initial response to something that sets the tone of your vibration or of your point of attraction. It's what you do with it later that has a lasting effect. So Solomon asked her, why does the snake frighten you? And she keeps on saying how bad it is. As you're talking on and on about the snake and other snakes, about how scary it is and how they're going to bite me and how they're going to chase me and how I'm going to die if I get bitten, as you're talking on and on about the snake and other snakes and all the bad things that snakes might do, you're holding yourself in that vibration. And it's becoming more and more likely you will attract other uncomfortable experiences with snakes. Snakes are like any animals. Um, they tend to stay out of your way. But if you're going to have a negative vibration, you're going to bring them into your path. Sifting through the conditions will only make things worse. So the more you tell yourself how dangerous snakes are, the worse you're going to make it. Find a better feeling place, find another way of thinking, and your fear will go away. So, for instance, snakes are really sensitive to vibration, and they will stay out of the way if they hear your footsteps coming and you are not afraid. If you're focusing on seeing snakes, they will align with that point of attraction and you will see snakes. How do you know if your valve is open or closed?
By what I am feeling, feeling good or feeling bad. If I am feeling bad,
Yes,
it means I have closed my valve.
there we go. How do you help others?
Even while helping others, maybe still focusing and giving attention on the positive things rather than doing it from a bad feeling point perspective. Would that be what we are looking for?
Exactly, yes. And it's really hard when someone's ill because all we see is their illness. But if you can see the gifts in their illness, um, sometimes they don't have to work anymore. Sometimes they could have more time with family than they ever had before. There are always gifts, no matter how dire a situation seems. And when we feel bad for them, we are adding to their chain of pain
Yeah,
instead of trying to see the good things and stay in our with our valve open so that they can feel that and pull themselves out of their chain of pain.
right.
How do you get rid of fear?
Mm, what would be your answer to it?
Well, the more that you focus on what you do want. So let's say your fear is of snakes. The more you focus on the fear of snakes, the more frightened you and the greater your fear becomes. If you can maybe learn something about snakes so that you can understand them better, you have less fear. So
Yeah.
that's one fear that you've conquered. And so you learn that you can conquer fear, and so you get rid of fear. I think knowledge is your biggest, I don't want to say weapon against fear, but so
Asset.
often fear is because of lack of understanding.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, the more we can know about things, the less we have to fear because fear is generally of the unknown.
Hmm.
So automatically, once we learn about something, we fear it less.
Yes. That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I've added 2 extra chapters into this one because there is a natural place of a break after the next 2 chapters. Okay. Sarah goes cold as the boys brag about how they found Solomon and shot him with a BB gun. She runs to find Solomon crumpled and dying in the snow. Everything is always all right, is the message that Solomon gives her. Your body isn't really who you are. It's just the perspective that you use for now to allow who you really are to play and grow and rejoice. It is our avatar to be here on the planet and enjoy. The body may die, but there is no such thing as death for the soul. Abraham says our friendship is forever, and that means that anytime you would like to chat with Solomon, all you have to do is identify what you want to talk about, focus upon it, bring yourself to a place of feeling very good, and I will be right there with you. We are mental friends, you and I. So it's a lovely way of introducing children to the idea that although a pet or a family member or somebody dies, they're not gone forever, that their energy, that their soul continues. We can't see them, but it's a lovely way of if you think about it, what he's asking you to do is to remember. And as soon as we remember somebody, they are right there with us in that memory.
Yeah. And I think it's easy for children to understand it that way, so they can let go of any trauma.
That's it. Yes. Sarah takes Solomon's body home, wondering how she will bury him when the ground is frozen. Her dad finds her sobbing on the front step, and he's got no idea what her connection with Solomon is, but he offers to bury Solomon behind the chicken coop. Oh, and I haven't got my picture. Sorry. I will fix that. And that is the end of this. We leave Sarah with Solomon being buried, but there is a part four. So,
Ah, wow, that
the
was a
end of
beautiful set of chapters there. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation as well, and I'm sure children are gonna love it. The way that they have presented this book. So we have, read the other Law of Attraction book by Esther as well. So now it clearly, from my perspective, I can see how this is gonna be a fun-filled, read for children and understand the concepts at the same time.
it is. It's beautiful.
Yes.
So there we
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you so much, Vishnupriya. I have to dash off, but thank you